Hi everyone and welcome back to One Autistic Person. This is the 19th video in a 50 video series that I am creating that goes through the questions and statements of the Autism Quotient, which is a pre-screening tool that is quite often used as part of the diagnosis and assessment process for autism. And because it's part of the diagnosis process, these statements are often looked at as a deficit, because within a diagnosis they need to look at them as a deficit. This one's a little bit different because I don't really think it is seen as a deficit. I think it's just seen as something that quite often is sort of traditionally a thought process of what somebody who is autistic might experience. So as I say, this is the 19th question, and it is, I am fascinated by numbers. And for me, this is a definitely agree. As I've said in many of my videos before, I would say that I fall under quite a lot of the stereotypical male autistic thought process of being fascinated by numbers, patterns, that kind of thing. So I do relate quite a lot to this one. And I don't necessarily see this one, as I've said, as a negative. I don't. There's very little negative with it. There is one negative which I'll get onto in a second, but this has been very beneficial in my home life because I love creating spreadsheets. I love tracking information, doing statistics, I love doing coding on computer coding. So this has been really beneficial to my special interests and for me to. I kind of find solace in numbers because they never let me down. They always do the same thing, no matter what. As long as I create the formula right, then it will give me the correct answer and the same answer each time. So I see structure and routine and safety in numbers. Not quite in that sense of safety in numbers, but safety in numbers and calculations, and knowing that numbers will serve me quite well, and I know that if something's wrong, it's because I've done something wrong within a calculation, so I'm able to solve that problems, and I love problem solving. So that's been really positive for me from a personal perspective, and I'm one of those people who create spreadsheets and graphs and statistical information just for fun, because it was interesting to find out how long ago something was, or what tracking information over a time period, how many times something's happened, and what the benefits or issues were around that. So, but from a work perspective, this has been both a really positive thing generally, but it does, as I've said, come with some kind of negative sometimes if it's not dealt with properly from me. So. From a work perspective, I work within charity retail. It's really important that we have as much detail as possible to be able to make sure that the very limited staff that we are able to pay for are able to do their work as efficiently as possible without it overwhelming them and them being overworked. Making sure that stock gets to where it needs to make the most money it possibly can. So there's lots of different bits of information that you can use there. So there's average selling prices, there's the amount of money actually made in the shop, there is the amount of items sold, there are the amount of bags of donations that come over the door, and all of that information. There's lots more information there. And I've created, about 9 years ago, created a spreadsheet that you just need to put 3 bits of information in, and it gives you 21 different statistics that you can then look at to be able to work out how much stock is needed, how much to sell it for, how much where the stock needs to be moved from and to. So there's lots of information that comes from very small bits of information that are put into it, and I loved that because it was like I did all of these graphs, and there's a lot of visuals with it. So it's great to have that information. One of the things that I found with it though is because of the fact it gives me all of this information, because I'm so numbers focused in my brain, I can sometimes go straight to, well, this would make us more money, and not bring people along with understanding the fact that actually, as well as it making more money, I'd be looking at actually reducing how much your workload is, which in our industry is. Everybody is overworked within the industry, as they are in most industries now. So trying to find anything to sort of reduce the amount of time things are taking is great, but people don't necessarily see it if you just come into it with numbers. And I've made that mistake on a few occasions where I've kind of forgotten about the people to an extent. But I've forgotten to explain to people how this will benefit them, because I'm so focused on the numbers. So I can see the route through the numbers. So it's that thing again with a lot of autistic people, and this is definitely me looking at things from a bottom-down perspective, bottom-up, sorry, not bottom-down, bottom-up perspective, that I'm looking at the finer detail, and I really, really, truly understand the bit of the smaller detail, and that bigger picture thing can sometimes be a bit of a problem. So it's with this, the mitigation that I put in place is just, I have to go through it and go, right, how is this going to affect these people's workload, and go into it with, I'm looking at this for the positive reasons to reduce the amount of hours that it's taking for you to sort things. It's taking time out of the amount of time it's going to process. So processing is sort of steaming, getting the pricing done, getting the tags on it, that type of thing. So that process, getting how is it going to make your shop floor easier to manage, various different things that actually reduce time down. And actually, again, looking at numbers with this, giving people this will mean you will need to spend X amount of hours less doing this, which means when I'm getting on at you to give me your paperwork, which can be a bit of a struggle sometimes because if I'm resource just isn't there, then it means that they're like, oh, actually that will make my life a little bit easier. So yeah, that's the only bit that is a bit of a problem for me personally, is I can be so focused on the numbers, I can sometimes forget that I'm going to need to have a conversation with people that's not just going to be purely about the numbers, because for me the numbers are the most important thing, because I've thought about everything that could potentially happen, but not necessarily communicating with people on that, again, social level of not understanding what information people need, and not necessarily picking up on cues on the fact that that person is not getting what I'm saying because I'm not communicating it to them in a way that they're able to see the finer detail that I've looked at, because why would they? They've not looked at the finer detail. So yeah, the thing with being fascinated as well, it kind of does make it a special interest. I think that the word fascinated when it comes to autistic people quite often isn't that it's just, oh, this is really interesting. It is that it is a hyper-focused situation. And I can also, the other, I suppose, negative can be that I can sometimes get so hyper-focused on it, I will forget about all of the work. If it's something interesting with numbers, I will completely hyper-focus to the point of nothing else matters. And I can spend a really long time and quite often work outside of work doing it. So I've had to make sure that I restrict my time doing it. But the thing is with that, I had a conversation with my boss a while back where I said, but I enjoy doing this. So it's that knowing that, yes, I do enjoy doing it, but if I did it for 12 hours, that's burning myself out and not necessarily, it's not necessarily beneficial. And I can be so hyper-focused on it, I can own it so much, it's like it's so important to me, and then if it doesn't get taken up, or it's not something that somebody feels is going to be beneficial, and it can be that I then struggle to see why, and struggle to get out of it. So the other thing I've been doing is trying to share what I'm doing as it's going along, because I'm quite bad at sort of holding on to it and going, well, I will create this, it will be perfect, and it will, and in my view will be, but when I share it with other people, they're not seeing it because of the fact they've not been involved in that smaller those smaller bits of processing. So I've learned to sort of go through it as time's going on and gone, this is the bit that I've done now, this is the bit that I've done now, and it sort of has helped to bring people along when it comes to numbers, because not everybody likes numbers, and quite as a lot of people really don't like them, and they do scare people. So yeah, this one's again where I'm coming at it more as a business perspective, because I don't think it really matters as much in your life outside of work, but in a work perspective, this can be really, really beneficial to allow you to communicate, or it allows me to communicate my thinking a lot better, because I've already come up with, this is the solution to problems, and it does help me find a lot of solutions to issues that are already there within the workplace. So it's been really beneficial to have that fascination, because if I struggled with numbers, it would be a very different situation for me, and I don't think I'd be doing this job if it didn't involve the numbers in the way that it does. So as with everything, I'd love to have comments of everybody telling me how they feel about this situation. That would be great. How do you find numbers fascinating? If so, what benefits do you think there are to it? As always, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.